All right, it's Lunch with Lombardi. Lombardi's Look Back, whichever alliteration you prefer. I had to let you guys fight it out in the comment section there for a few minutes. But we're getting on here at 12:48 p.m. Pacific time. The look back at the 49ers loss against the Bears. First thing I'll tell you is that I had a chance to rewatch the game twice now, and I think that's significant because, everybody, as I was watching the game, following along on Twitter, seeing some of the thoughts from the fans and other media members, there's obviously a lot of real-time confusion, some emotion probably from fans as the game is going on, especially once the 49ers lost. But the dispassionate review, especially if you do it two times the day after the game, I think really helps yield some perspective. And I would say that some players for the 49ers looked better than fans initially thought, and some probably looked worse than fans initially thought. So it's always just more accurate to take a look after the battle has settled, right? The dust is not flying up around in the air. Mud's not being kicked up around anywhere anymore. Now we could dispassionately review the 49ers. Loss to the Bears. It was a tough loss to the Bears, and I have the article up. I spent this morning watching film and writing this piece that includes snap counts, alignment breakdowns, essentially a review of the 49ers' entire roster and how they performed against Chicago, over 1,500 words. So this is as detailed as it gets. And you guys can check it out right now. I'm going to put the link in the chat section, and it already is up in the description for you. So the headline that I chose, because I thought that these were the two biggest elements on both sides of the ball as far as stories go: Trey Lance's rainy inaccuracy and Talanoa Hufanga's big splash. It's called 49ers Minutia Minute. Some weeks Matt Barrows is going to write this article. Some weeks I'm going to write this article, but it's going to come out Monday on The Athletic after every single game. So why don't you be sure to subscribe to The Athletic. Check it out. Trey Lance's rainy inaccuracy, Talanoa Hufanga's big splash. We are going to be discussing how the 49ers looked yesterday. So I'm going to go through this position by position as well for the purposes of our discussion. First of all, yes, Trey Lance was inaccurate, but I don't think that's the biggest concern with Trey Lance. I tweeted about this yesterday. I wrote about it. I talked about it on the videos. We expected Trey Lance to be inaccurate. And by we, I mean everybody who's objectively followed the course of events here of his development. I mean, the 49ers have expected growing pains from Trey Lance. I did the big piece with Steve Young last week. He was very clear about what he expected from Trey Lance, and that was a few missed passes. Now, you added the monsoon into that, and of course, you're going to have weather-worsened inaccuracy that was already expected ahead of time. So, yes, Trey missed Tyler Kroft in the first half. That was one the 49ers really would have liked to have, because they would have had a bigger lead, and they probably would have won the game had he not airmailed that pass. He also had that interception to Eddie Jackson in the second half. He said that he tried to look Jackson off. I watched the tape this morning. There might have been like a 1 millimeter glance to try to look Jackson off, but it wasn't a good enough job from Trey Lance. It was mainly a stare down effort, and it was a mistake. In college, that window might be there. In the NFL, it's not. Eddie Jackson's a playmaker. He was an all-pro back in 2018 because he made so many plays like that. So Lance obviously has to be better. He obviously has to be more accurate, but this is not the game to measure. And, you can measure his inaccuracy or accuracy all you want, but this is not the game to deliver sweeping judgments on it, because they played in a lake. Okay. Justin Fields and Trey Lance were the two least accurate passers in the NFL yesterday. And it's not a coincidence, because they played the game in a lake. The ball was heavy. The ball was wet. And the 49ers are really looking forward to better weather against Seattle coming up on Sunday. 72 degrees, just a few clouds in the forecast. So my biggest concern was the physical load that Lance took. 13 runs. And he, the way that he runs, I mean, he juked Jauan Brisker on that one third down run, picked up the first down. That was impressive. The most impressive one was when the pocket was collapsing around him late in the game on a third down, and somehow Trey kind of squeezed out of it, stumbled forward to a first down. His elusiveness is on point. His runs are impressive. To me, the potential issue is that he runs a lot like Deebo Samuel, which is a compliment in a manly way, right? He runs people over. He's physical. He's got a good sense of where defenders are on the field. But for your franchise quarterback, that's a lot of bruises. Deebo-style running is going to inflict a lot of bruises on your franchise quarterback. And Trey ran 13 times yesterday. And a lot of those runs were designed. They ran triple option. They ran QB draw. They ran read option. Reminded me a lot of the Arizona game last year, 16 runs for Trey Lance. Well, we're waiting for the Kyle Shanahan press conference. That's going to happen in about 2.5 hours here. And remember last year when Kyle Shanahan had his post-Arizona press conference the day after the game? That's when he announced that Trey Lance had suffered a knee injury 24 hours earlier. So, I'm not predicting that he's going to announce an injury today for Trey Lance, but I'm saying that when a quarterback runs that many times, and it was 16 times against the Cardinals last year and 13 times against the Bears this year, there might be a good reason in both instances. Lance had a chipped finger last year. Good reason, right, to run more because he couldn't operate otherwise. It was a monsoon yesterday. Good reason to run more. Regardless of the reason, you're exposing your quarterback to some hits. And Roquan Smith on one, just full body weight, landed on top of Trey Lance. That is not a position that you want to put your starting quarterback in. Now, it's good for the 49ers that they have the insurance policy in Jimmy Garoppolo, but let's be real. These guys are trying to make Trey Lance their true quarterback of the future. They're trying to develop him into a pocket passer. And the next step that Trey Lance is going to take in terms of accuracy has to come via reps. And if he gets hurt, he's not going to get the reps. It's going to set the 49ers back in the long term. So they need to keep him healthy. And perhaps fittingly, the best way for Trey Lance to stay healthy is to deliver from the pocket. But that's something that he's going to have to develop over time. So Steve Young, he told me last week, Trey's going to miss 4 passes probably. I mean, that was just Steve Young spitballing. He missed about 4, good opportunities yesterday, I thought, for the 49ers. His job is to make sure that the next time he's out on the field, that goes down to 2. And then the next time, that goes down to 1. And then eventually, he doesn't miss any. He's perfect. He's accurate in all of these games. That's probably a pipe dream. No quarterback is perfectly accurate. It's a chaotic, violent sport, but you get the idea. If Trey Lance can become more and more accurate, something that better weather conditions will help, it will basically mirror the 49ers plan for him. It was the rest of the team that dropped the ball on the formula yesterday. The formula didn't expect Trey Lance to be perfect yesterday. We judge versus the formula. Nobody thought this was going to be Tom Brady-like precision in a dome. Right? This was the worst weather game of the year so far in the NFL. Definitely the worst of the first week that we saw. And it was Trey Lance's first start as QB1. It wasn't a spot start. He was QB1. The Bears have been preparing for him essentially all off season. So he's got to get better from here. The 49ers expected this. Now they expect improvement. This is where the pressure is on. Improvement has to come. And that's my main point regarding the quarterback position. Elijah Mitchell. Ian Rappaport just came out and said that Mitchell's undergoing MRIs right now, probably already finished. We'll probably get the update on how those MRIs went at 3:30 p.m. Pacific from Kyle Shanahan. Rappaport's report suggested that Mitchell might be out for a few weeks. Okay, so that means it's probably a good time to take a look at the roster. So let's see it right here. 49ers 70-man depth chart. Stretch it out across the screen as usual. I already have Mitchell highlighted in red up here. That means that he is injured. As you can see, the 49ers have 3 other running backs because Kyle Juszczyk is a fullback on this 53-man roster. That's Jeff Wilson, who played yesterday. Jordan Mason, who was active yesterday, played some special teams, and Ty Davis-Price, who was inactive yesterday. So they usually have 3 active running backs plus the fullback Kyle Juszczyk. Assuming Mitchell is out, well, a few weeks would mean I'd put him over in this column, injured reserve, but I'll wait until that's confirmed to do that. Assuming he's out, you probably have to activate the 3 that you have left, Wilson, Davis-Price, and Mason. Now, do you sign a 4th guy to bolster the position? Because as you can see, the practice squad is empty. I would say probably, but the big wild card here is Deebo Samuel. Every single time that Elijah Mitchell has been unavailable for the 49ers over the past couple years, the 49ers have turned to Deebo Samuel in the backfield because, as you saw yesterday, Mitchell had over 6 yards per carry. I think it was 6.8. The next running back, the official running back, pure running back on the list, Jeff Wilson, was like 2.7. Wilson's not as fast as Elijah Mitchell. Wilson doesn't hit the hole like Elijah Mitchell. And I think Shanahan feels he needs somebody like Elijah Mitchell or Raheem Mostert, who obviously now is with Miami, or Deebo Samuel to fill that gap. So I think that's a big reason of why Deebo Samuel has been a 49ers running back. He got the 8 carries yesterday. The fumble was costly, but the touchdown was nice for Deebo Samuel. So anyway, looking at the roster machinations here, they probably will add somebody to the practice squad, but they don't have to because they may earmark more activity for Deebo Samuel at running back. And if they do that, if Debo is supposed to be a running back more often, then I think you see the 49ers activate 6 receivers on game day, because Danny Gray was inactive yesterday because they instead called up Malik Turner from the practice squad. Special teams was really important in a weather game like yesterday. In better weather, they're going to want to stretch the field, and they're going to be able to justify activating both Gray and Malik Turner, who has 2 practice squad flexes left, to have 6 wideouts available if Debo is getting a lot of action in the backfield. You could justify that in the receiver position. So I think that's what the 49ers will do for the time being without Elijah Mitchell. But we will wait to see what the ultimate verdict on his injury will be from Kyle Shanahan here in a couple hours. Okay, so let's go back to the article. I'm going to pop it back open on the screen. Those of you just joining, make sure you check the link, which is down below to this article. Trey Lance's rainy inaccuracy, Talanoa Hufanga's big splash, 49ers Minutia Minute up on The Athletic. Make sure that you do subscribe. All right, we're moving on. Jauan Jennings. I mean, this guy's a stud. Now, first of all, the 49ers had 180 rushing yards yesterday. I think it was 176. They had a lot of rushing yards. They averaged 4.8 yards per carry. It was a good performance in the ground. In fact, if you would have told me or told anybody who knows football before the game that the 49ers would have 37 carries for 176 yards, they would have been like, damn, 49ers doing well for themselves. They probably won that game by quite a bit, right? Well, wrong. They didn't, because of the penalties, right? The penalties just killed the 49ers. But they had a good performance, good productive performance on the ground. And, before I go and talk about the offensive line, I have to talk about Jauan Jennings. Early on, they ran the sweep to Brandon Ayuk, right? He runs around the edge, and then they had one to Deebo Samuel early on as well. Jennings is out in front blocking. He's mauling defensive backs. And, this is a guy that, to me, didn't stand out to me that much in camp. In fact, he had a few rough days with a few drops during training camp. But here's the thing. During training camp, even though it is physical, right, it's not as physical as games. And some guys they shine more on game day. And I think Jauan Jennings is built to shine on game day because he's got the dog in him. He's got the X-ray of the pit bull in him, right? But he mauls people. And you can't really do that at the level that you need to stand out in training camp. And yesterday he was one of the 49ers' best perimeter run blockers. And they had a lot of good perimeter run blockers. You don't run for that many yards on, that many carries if you don't have good ox run blockers, and ox by auxiliary, AUX, not ox as in the animal. But those guys were doing great work on the outside. And Jauan Jennings also led the 49ers in receiving, 4 catches for 62 yards. I mean, the route tree was versatile, right? He caught the slant on 3rd down from Trey Lance, good possession grab, and then he just blew by one of the safeties out of the slot on that big 44-yard gain. So Jauan Jennings is a good player. And Ray McLeod is a good player too. He had the nice catch on the best pass of the day from Trey Lance. And there, I talked about it before the game. You have 2 wide receiver 3s with versatile skill sets. Jennings is a big slot wide receiver 3. Ray McLeod is a gadget wide receiver 3. We've yet to see Danny Gray because he was inactive, but he's going to be your speed wide receiver 3. And the 49ers can do a bunch of different things. So I thought Jennings' performance was significant yesterday. Tyler Kroft, tight end 2 for the 49ers. This was an interesting roster development because we weren't quite sure which direction the 49ers would go with George Kittle out. A lot of people had assumed that Charlie Werner would just step into that tight end 2 role. That wasn't the case. We saw Tyler Kroft, the veteran, in that role. He was doing a great job run blocking yesterday. I thought that was important to note. And he would have scored a touchdown had Trey Lance hit him on that tight end leak route in the 49ers. What was the second drive? The first drive was ended by Deebo Samuel's fumble. The second drive didn't score a touchdown because they couldn't find Tyler Kroft and easy touchdown on the tight end leak. It came after a successful run. The defense bought the run play action. Lance had the time to make the throw. And he just overshot Tyler Kroft. But Kroft did his job yesterday. I think, it's clear he's tight end 2. He had twice as many snaps as Ross Dwelley and Charlie Werner. And if George Kittle is back against Seattle, you're probably going to see one of those 2, probably Ross Dwelley, exit the rotation. So interesting news there along 49ers tight end 2. All right, I wanted to wait till more people were online to talk about this. And this is obviously in the piece, but The biggest 49ers development, I would say, the most positive and the biggest, because to me, I don't consider a ton of penalties to be a huge development. The 49ers are either going to fix those penalties or not. In 2019, they led off the season with 11 penalties. They still beat Tampa Bay in an ugly game, and then they fixed it and they moved on. I'm going to wait to see how the 49ers respond before I make a huge deal out of it. But as far as like actual developments on the playing field, just consider where we were entering this game. The 49ers had big question marks along the law firm up front, right? Brendel, Banks, and Burford. Aaron Banks, first-time starter at left guard. Jake Brendel, like a second-time starter. He had a spot start earlier at center. Rookie Spencer Burford with his first start at right guard. Burford didn't allow a single pressure. He had a good run blocking grade. He had an excellent pass blocking grade, the best on the 49ers. He held his own. His only blemish was a false start in the noise there in the fourth quarter as a rookie. Now, that's huge news for the 49ers because they're only going to go as far as Trey Lance takes them, and Trey Lance is only going to go as far as that interior line blocks for him. Now, am I saying the interior line was perfect? By no means am I saying that. Banks gave up 2 pressures. Brendel gave up 2 pressures. The interior line got pushed a little bit, but they never got beaten clean, in my opinion, outside of one clean beat that Aaron Banks suffered early on against Armon Watts, the defensive tackle for the Bears. And because they got pushed but never beaten clean, Trey Lance had a chance. And Trey Lance's footwork's going to have to get better. He's going to have to learn how to step up in the pocket, kind of evade the rush, keep his eyes downfield. He can't bail every single time. I get it. We talk about Trey Lance's development all the time. That much is obvious. But the interior line needs to give him a chance, and they gave him a chance on Sunday. And it started with a great game from Spencer Burford, which is huge positive news for the 49ers. Now, ironically, I put this here. Aaron Banks was not terrible. That's not ironic. I'm just saying he wasn't terrible. Ironically, it's the tackles that gave up the most for the 49ers yesterday. Trent Williams, 3 pressures. McGlinchey gave up the sack on the right side. Dominique Robinson from the Bears lined up on both sides. And he later said in the locker room, he had a great game, by the way. He beat both Williams and Mike McGlinchey. After the game, Robinson goes and he says that Williams was tipping off pass by tapping his left foot twice before the snaps. Williams will thank him for the tip of the tip, right? Because, I'm sure that Trent, who is such a technician, detail-oriented student of the game, is going to make sure he's not making the same mistake moving forward. But, in a weird way, McGlinchey is a concern coming off the injury. Obviously, he's always been a better run blocker than a pass protector, maybe with the exception of last season when he bulked up a bit. But Williams is not a concern for the 49ers. If he stays healthy, they'll be fine on the left side. He'll fix his issues. If McGlinchey holds serve at right tackle, then all you have to do is worry about the interior. And I thought the interior exited that game, especially Burford, having performed adequately well. So on the overall, on the aggregate, especially since they ran for those 180 yards, I think it wasn't a bad day for the 49ers offensive line. They still have a lot to work on, but there is a lot of silver lining and there is a lot of positive coming out of the game for the 49ers in that phase. Linebacker play. We're moving to the linebacker position. I'm going to talk about defensive line next. Didn't make a title for them. But the linebackers, they committed all these penalties, right? 45 yards of personal foul penalties between Dre Greenlaw, 2 calls, and Azeez Al-Shaair, the one late hit call on Justin Fields. That's not good. The first one, I don't blame Greenlaw. It was a slip and slide. It didn't end up hurting the 49ers anyway. It was the second 2. It was the face mask. Yes, it was a little ticky-tack, but his hand was there for a second. And then Al-Shaair's penalty, you've got to avoid it. Both of those came on touchdown drives to the Bears. Not good for the 49ers. Both of those, you can say, aided Bears touchdown drives, which the 49ers absolutely must figure out a way to eliminate. The one thing for the linebackers is the 49ers hold these guys in such high esteem that, you got to create takeaways, especially if it's wet. These guys are out there to make an impact. They have that good and that talented of a linebacking core. And when they're only making a negative impact with penalties and everything else is neutral, it's not going to be good enough for the linebacking crew. So I think they need to, start generating at least a takeaway per game, especially when it's that wet. Now, let me talk about the rest of the front 7, the defensive line. Bosa had the sack. Kinlaw, promising return, right? You guys see he beat both of the guards for the Bears. Beat Cody Whitehair, and then he beat Tevin Jenkins on the first 3 plays. Whitehair on play 1, Jenkins on play 3. Both times, in honor of my triathlon yesterday, Jauan used the swim move, right? The little freestyle swim move. The second time was a little bit more pronounced than the first, but both times he used a legitimate pass rushing move that wasn't just a bull rush. That's progress to me. I mean, he came to the 49ers in 2020 with nothing but the bull rush. Jauan Kinlaw didn't have pass rushing moves. He was a run plugger who had to develop pass rushing moves. He had to develop finesse. I mean, you've seen him without a shirt on. The guy's an absolute monster. He obviously has the bull rush, but guys in the NFL have anchor strength. You have to be able to beat them in different ways and then catch them off guard with the bull rush. Well, 2 swim moves in the first 3 plays, to me, that was impressive. He was explosive. He was impressive. He didn't hurt his ankle and came back, and then he committed the defensive holding penalty, so it wasn't a perfect game, but I thought that was a step forward for Jauan Kinlaw. They missed a couple sacks, right? Sansom Ebukam and Eric Armstead. Some of it you have to just tip your cap to Justin Fields. That's the strength of his game, his elusiveness. So some of that, the other team is paid too. They're going to make plays. I did think, though, that the 49ers defensive line flexed its muscles in a way that was really promising that they're going to live up to expectations this season. Yes, Fields got away from them a couple times in the second half, but I blame the second half's defensive struggles on the penalties and on coverage breakdowns in the back end. Bears receivers were wide open. I thought the 49ers got healthy pressure, especially in the first half against Fields, but even into the second half, they got good pressure against Justin Fields. The secondary has to hold up its end of the bargain, and they didn't. And I was really, really intrigued by Charles Omenihu yesterday, who I thought got in the quarterback's face a couple times. In fact, on the Talanoa Hufanga interception, it was Charles Omenihu getting his arm up, rushing against center. 5 of Omenihu's 17 snaps actually came from a defensive tackle alignment. And, the hand in Fields' face, that was why Fields threw that pick. He didn't see where he was throwing. Those are big plays that don't go noticed when you're watching the game live. But a little bit later, they certainly do go noticed. And that was credit Charles Omenihu on that one. So 49ers defensive line, I thought it was a good showing to start the season. Did it have a couple leaks? Of course it did. But the true story of this game was 12 penalties for 99 yards to give the Bears second, third, fourth, and fifth chances. How about Talanoa Hufanga, speaking of good 49ers performances? I mean, 11 tackles, 6 run stops, the interception, just the instinctive play. We talk so much about the 49ers safety issues, but Tashaun Gipson was their second highest graded defender, according to PFF, behind only Hufanga. He did drop that interception, which was too bad for the 49ers. But, Hufanga was a star yesterday. We talk about Spencer Burford playing really well on the offensive end. Might have been harder to tell. Hufanga just popped off the film. The way that he anticipates, the way that he sees plays coming as they develop before blockers can get into their position, he makes himself faster. Remember, this guy was only a 4.6, bordering on 4.7 coming out of USC, which is why he dropped to the 5th round. But because of his identification skills, Hufanga plays like a 4.3 safety. Troy Polamalu was a 4.3 safety, right? Hufanga learns from Polamalu. Polamalu also had great instincts. So yesterday, massive step forward. If Hufanga delivers that kind of play every single week, he's going to be an all-pro. I don't know if he can be that consistent for the 49ers, but give him a chance. It was a good start, and we'll see what happens moving forward. Tashaun Gipson, as I mentioned, was good too. One thing I don't know, though, the most damaging plays against the 49ers happened in the pass game in the second half. And, credit Justin Fields all you want for escaping Eric Armstead on the big gainer to Dante Pettis and the Dante Pettis revenge game. But outside of that, the 2 other big completions from Fields were to wide open receivers. You flip quarterbacks, Trey Lance probably makes those throws as well. Like, they were more open than Tyler Kroft was on the tight end leak. Very easy plays. Oh, per league sources, who I just got a text from Mike. Mike, who reported that? Let me know. Is that Schefter or 49ers running back Elijah Mitchell? Expected to be sidelined about 2 months with a sprained MCL that he suffered at Chicago, according to Adam Schefter. Okay, so 2 months is going to mean that we're going to see Elijah Mitchell likely. So I'm going to talk about the pass defense in a bit. Sorry, we're going to have a quick kind of pivot here. Let's open up the roster. Elijah Mitchell will almost certainly go on IR. So why don't we just move him there right now? This is not like an official thing anyway. So you can see I just moved Elijah Mitchell in real time to IR on the right side. I hate when those Excel nerds are going to be really mad at me because I didn't copy and paste I copied and pasted the style. I know that's a faux pas, but here we go. Mitchell is over on the right side. We can now, I would say that Jeff Wilson is going to be the 49ers top running back. So we'll put Wilson here. Well, Jordan Mason, I would say, is the second stringer. So we'll move him here. Ty Davis Price is over there. Why don't we clear the style here? Try to make this look nice for you guys in real time. Boom. I think that looks good. Got to increase our count here. C5. All right. And a bigger font for Wilson. All right. This is what the 49ers depth chart looks like now, or will look like once Elijah Mitchell is officially on injured reserve. So you got Wilson as your top back, although Deebo Samuel might actually fill that role. Jordan Mason behind him. Ty Davis Price is the third back, at least according to the pecking order yesterday. Mitchell now in IR. He's no longer going to be taking up a roster spot, and I'm going to, let's change this here. He's no longer going to be taking on a roster spot. So now in the 53-man count, you have 52. So there's going to be another spot for the 49ers to fill out. Do you sign somebody to the practice squad? Potentially. I think one move that the 49ers might make is they might elevate Malik Turner to the 53-man roster, since I think he's going to be playing a lot anyway, even though he has 2 elevations left. So if you moved Malik, just for illustration's sake, to the 53, then you have one extra spot on the practice squad and you could sign another running back. In fact, that's probably what I would expect the 49ers to do. That's just my prediction, though. So it will be interesting to see the machination here, because remember, you could move Malik to the 53 and play him and play Danny Gray and play, all 6 of these receivers, including Malik, can be up if one of them, Deebo Samuel, is expected to see heavy usage at running back, which I think might be the case with Mitchell out for about 2 months, according to Adam Schefter. Okay, hope that clears everything up. Why don't we go back here and finish up the rest of the show? I was talking about the 49ers pass defense. Tashaun Gipson, he was good. He had a good grade, almost had that pick, dropped it. That's too bad for the 49ers. Hufanga obviously played a good game. But you'd have to wonder, because these Bears receivers, Equanimous St. Brown, Byron Pringle, and then Dante Pettis, they were so wide open on 3 really, really damaging plays. How did they get so open? Where was the communication breakdown? That's something that I'm going to try to find out in the locker room this week. But something tells me that not having Jimmy Ward probably hurt the 49ers there, because he is the leader in the back end of the 49ers secondary. Overall, though, just watching this game, the fact they had 180 rushing yards, the fact that Lance actually looked really good on a big handful of plays yesterday, even though it was raining, given the fact that the offensive line acquitted itself well, given the run blocking and I thought decent interior pass protection, and given the fact that the defense was overpowering for a half plus, we saw the 49ers' foundational talent. I mean, you can't look at this game as a football evaluator and say that the Bears were close to them in the talent department. The 49ers obviously had the better roster. That was really, really clear from an objective standpoint in this game. But the Bears had the more disciplined roster. So talent without discipline will lose to a lack of talent with discipline, because everybody in the NFL's got some level of ability. Not like college football where you could sleepwalk your way to win. So the Bears beat the 49ers because they're the more disciplined team. They didn't commit 12 penalties for 100 yards. So the 49ers are going to have to fix that. They fixed it in 2019. Week 1, 11 penalties. They fixed it moving forward. The preseason is butchered now. That might be a reason behind it. But I'll tell you what, the 49ers executed on rewatch, and I'd said early in the show, we'll watch it twice. The 49ers executed extremely well early in the game. First defensive possession, first offensive possession, awesome up until the Deebo fumble. The touchdown drive, excellent. There was a 3-play sequence with triple option, beautiful seed from Trey Lance on the play fake to Ray McLeod, his nicest throw in an NFL uniform, in my opinion, and then inside zone to Elijah Mitchell. And then they scored the touchdown with Deebo Samuel. I mean, in spurts, the 49ers, and it was a long spurt defensively, but in spurts offensively, they showed us the vision that Kyle Shanahan has for this team. So they have the ability to do it. Now they have to take that and consistently do it, which, to be honest, is an encapsulation of the Trey Lance experience. He was volatile during training camp, one day good, one day bad. I came to you with reports on the practice field every day. Well, now they've got to have it be multiple games good and, only a few games bad. That's the key to this season. Now, it's going to help the 49ers if Elijah Mitchell could come back, but he won't here for the next couple of months. So the big question moving forward against Seattle, who we'll watch on Monday Night Football, is what can the 49ers do at running back and how will they do it? Deebo Samuel, I think, is their preferred option, but he can't take all the carries. Somebody else is going to have to step up, and we'll look forward to 49ers roster moves. All right, Kyle Shanahan has a conference call in about 2 hours. So stay tuned for that. I'll post it up here, and stay tuned for some reaction to that as we move forward. Everybody like the video, sub to the channel, and as a reminder, I'll put it up one more time. This is the article that you need to check out and subscribe to the Athletic through if you like this kind of content. We're deep with this one. Trey Lance's reigning inaccuracy, Talanoa Hufanga's big splash. So subscribe to the Athletic for it. I'll put it in that chat section one more time here for you. Just click on that link, and I believe we're probably still $1 a month, so it's going to be worth it for you guys. All right. Take care, guys. We will see you very soon. Hope you have a great rest of your Monday.